Hey guys, just want to take a moment to say thank you for everyone who's been subscribing to the channel. When I first made this channel and these videos, wasn't really sure what to expect. I just wanted to do some content that I liked and also some content that I thought would be valuable for everybody else. So I think we're close to 400 subscribers on YouTube, which nothing to shake a stick at. So just want to say thank you for following along, and I plan to keep on putting more content out. We'll be actually going over a lot of the questions from some of you guys that are following in regards to Jiu-Jitsu academies and just how to take it to the next level. So again, thanks so much for following along. I'm here to answer some questions from the users today, from our subscribers. So I want to take the time out to make sure I acknowledge everyone who has liked and subscribed so far. Please do the same if you haven't. I'll be answering these kinds of questions at least once a month, so make sure you comment in all the videos with any questions that you guys may have. Let's hop right into it. It says, current academy owner, do you or your instructors find it difficult to stay on course when it comes to the curriculum? Does it really make a big difference to have one as opposed to not having one? The answer is, it's absolutely not difficult for us to have the instructors stay on the curriculum, and that's because we set the standard, right? The standard is that if you want to work here for us, if you want to be a part of our team, then this is what you're going to teach and this is when you're going to teach it. And it's not in a way of like thinking that you are like a mean person or a jerk academy owner. It's just that if you allow the instructors or any employee for any business for that matter, kind of dictate their terms, then it kind of sets the wrong tone like out of the gate. The second thing is, like, obviously we have proof in the pudding. So our curriculum is, I would say, the best in the world for a reason, because we've won the world championships 15 times out of 29. So it just, you know, we like to think that if you look at our history, there's like, it's credentialed, right? So our credentialed history shows that this methodology and our processes for how to teach the classes is like, there's a method behind the madness at the end of the day. So I think it makes a huge difference. I think, again, to your question, does it really make a big difference to have one as opposed to not? I don't like the idea of an instructor just showing up and teaching what they like to teach. You know, it's easy for me to teach triangles if I'm good at it, right? But if the students don't have that body type or like that dexterity or flexibility to do certain moves, and I'm only teaching them moves that doesn't align with that, then that's also how you lose students. So the point of a curriculum is to have like a very well-rounded system so your students can grab from it what works for them and then develop their own game. If you have a curriculum to follow and you have multiple instructors, it makes it really easy to sub them out, you know, if something comes up, right? It's like, hey, Bobby is out sick, so Fabio, he's going to be teaching. Which class is it? It's on the group chat. It just says Wednesday at 9 a.m. fundamentals is class number 7. Fabio could then go into the learning center, make sure what class number 7 is if he doesn't already know, and very easily teach the class. Versus Fabio shows up to teach class that day as a sub, and he's like teaching arm bars when all week we've been learning back takes. So it keeps things moving in a way that allows people to not feel disjointed in their learning process, but also have some continuity in their learning process. And so again, if they're learning, if they're advancing, if they're improving, they're going to stay with you. And at the end of the day, this channel is like a lot about business and how to stay in business, but also how to make money in your jiu-jitsu business. So you need people to stay to make money. And so that's why the curriculum, if you rewind it and reverse engineer, is why it's so important, is to have something that's consistent that your students can buy into. So I would say it's very important, but which curriculum would you follow? Hopefully Alliance. This is from Lee_Jimmy. The question is, which company did you sell for 8 figures? I'm also going to the acquisition workshop, but I haven't scheduled yet. I own a coffee company and used to train BJJ, but I'm glad YouTube recommended your video. Well, I'm glad too. Thanks for the question. So this is kind of a nuanced question. There's a couple of them and there's nuanced answers to it. I was in the financial world for quite some time, and then I also started a fulfillment company about 6 years ago and sold that last year in 2024. I took it as a business opportunity and used my business skills to be able to build that company with another partner, and ultimately sold it to him. So regarding the acquisition workshop, what Lee Jimmy is talking about is the Alex Hormozy workshop that I went to also last year. And I will say that, Jimmy, if you Lee Jimmy should say, if you haven't scheduled it yet, even 2 months later, you need to do that. I'm a big fan of Hormozi. Everything he puts out, I pretty much consume. And if you follow Alex Hormozi, you'll know that he puts out, I think, 200 and something posts / videos a week, and so I've committed to doing an hour a day of just consuming his content because it is so valuable. And you own a coffee company and used to train jiu-jitsu, huh? So why used to? Get back in there, man. Hop back on the horse. Coffee company is great. Love to hear more about it. So again, thanks for the comment. Nina Lev. It says, exciting. We're always in HB and thinking of relocating in the semi-near future. Will Fabio and Michael be there long-term or just the beginning? Fabio and Michael, who he's referring to, is Fabio Gurgel, the original founder of Alliance, as well as Michael Langhi, who is the head coach and also owner of the Villa Olympia gym, one of the most successful alliances, if not the most successful alliance gyms in the world, down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And the answer is they will be here long-term. So good news. The only thing is they will likely be rotating. So they'll be coming roughly 6 weeks at a time, 4 to 6 weeks at a time. And then so when one person is here, when Fabio's here, Michael will be back in Brazil running the academy, and then they'll switch. So they'll always be rotating. And so, we really wanted to take Huntington Beach to the next level for the US presence of Alliance. So the commitment there is that they are going to be coming long-term. And they are partners in the gym, so it's not just their teaching, right? So they're my 50-50 partner, and we look forward to having him here for all you guys here in the U.S. So good news, long term. Okay, next question comes from Kudoloka. Gosh, this is hard to read. So it says, my opinion, based on my own experience teaching and being taught, is a curriculum a double-edged sword. I had a very bad experience last year with a very restrictive curriculum and the owner head instructor. I personally like the idea of a curriculum and still do to a point, feeling that it can structure learning better. However, what happened to us was disjointed learning and long gaps in between, boredom for myself and the students. And so my opinion on traditional curriculums is currently jaded right now, trying to find a better method. This is actually the first time I've read this comment, so I have a lot of thoughts going through my head right now on it. You have two different things to think about. Like, one, if you own a business, do you want it to survive? And the second thing is, like, do you want your students to improve? So you can't just have one. You have to have both for it to do well. I would say first and foremost, it's got to start with you as the leader, as the instructor. Like, I've taught many classes. I've taken many classes from the best in the world, from Roger Gracie to Marcelo, Fabio, my instructor and professor, Johnny Faria, Lavazzo. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I've seen every single type of instructor out there. And I can tell you that this starts with you. And this starts with you as the instructor, because if you're saying that there's boredom setting in, I think that you have to remember to fall in love with the fundamentals. And what people want in the gym and then what they want at your Jiu-Jitsu Academy is consistency. And so even though you may feel, and again, maybe not saying this exactly, but maybe you feel that that there's boredom from the students as well, is like you have to reiterate the importance of that boredom is like where the work is done. And so, I get bored doing spreadsheets. I get bored doing a lot of different things in the gym, but like it's necessary, So like if you want to be fancy and just do flying arm bars all the time or flying triangles, that's one way to, I guess, keep it entertaining, and you can throw those things in there. But a curriculum is there for a reason, and a curriculum there from the fundamentals perspective, even if it's repetitive, is to get your students understanding that like repetition is the success. What you think is best for your students isn't always what's best long-term. So you can say it's boring, but I think the reality is, like, again, when you're dealing with new students in particular, you want to make sure that they're babied in a way so that they're not getting injured, and the expectation is what they're being told. So if the front desk is telling them, hey, you don't roll for 60 classes, and then we have a rogue professor letting them roll on their third class and they get hurt, of course they're going to quit. So we set the standard at this is what you're going to be if you want to be an instructor with us. So if you want to teach down the street at Joey's Jiu-Jitsu, no problem. There's a reason why, again, we want to do what we do, and that's just what we're setting the standard at. So you kind of get what you allow. So if you allow your instructors to dictate, well, I don't like this, and they're teaching whatever they want, then you will get that. So you can't be afraid to put your foot down, even as an instructor. I should say as an owner to the instructors, saying, look, this is the reason why we're doing this. Again, I don't know what methodology you're following, as I've said before, but I know for us and for Alliance, it's the way to go. All right, next question is from Loris Bresselin 6745. This very interesting video. Thank you. Some questions for you. How do you keep control over the membership? Do you have a maximum number of people that can attend classes? And you said you should start big in a new academy, but what are your thoughts about starting small and then moving to a bigger space step by step? Should you start out small, move to a bigger space step by step when you have the actual number to sustain to a bigger place? Can you advise some books that you like to help you learning more about academy management and business itself? So how do you keep control over the membership? I don't really know the exact question you have there necessarily. I think you're saying, how do you price the memberships? And I would say that this is very nuanced, but you don't want to be the cheapest in the area ever, because then people will just leave you for the next cheapest, So I think that's the first thing. So actually you want to be towards the top, if not the most expensive in the area. And there's psychological reasons behind that, but also the other part of that is you have to have an academy that warrants that kind of price. If you're saying, hey, how do you feel about starting small and then moving to a bigger academy later when you can sustain it? I think that it's a double-edged sword, because if you have a super small academy without showers and like maybe just a toilet, I'm not going to pay $300 a month for that, right? Or most people won't. But if you have multiple showers, multiple mats, a big class schedule, that's something to think about, right? And so again, we can get deeper into this in other videos, just so make sure you like and subscribe to this, because I will be going much deeper into every location that I open from here on out. But again, the nuances to this is the value needs to be in the academy and the instruction and the offering. Should you start with a smaller space? I would say no. I think because then you can only charge a certain level, right? And then the other piece is, let's say you did start in a small space and you only have one mat, maybe you have one shower. And let's say it's super successful out of the gate. Well, if you've ever signed a lease before, you know you can't just leave. So you are likely locked into that lease for 3 to 5 years at a minimum. So to move at that point, then you're kind of stuck, right? And so that's where I say that you have to take a calculated risk and say, okay, I can get this 1,000 square foot space over here and I'm going to play it very safe, right? Or you get 4,000 square feet and maybe the rent is more expensive, but you have more upward like mobility in your pricing, but also upward mobility in your profit. Because at the end of the day, the way that you would calculate this is based on square footage of mat space and how many people you can fit. So to your question of, do you have a maximum number of people that can attend classes? We do not. We do not. So if that's the case, you need to optimize for the mat space. And so if you have a small space, that means you have a small mat space, which means you don't have that many people in there. And at the end of the day, you got to pay instructors, you got to pay the lights, you got to pay the rent, and you got to pay usually CAM charges, which is common area maintenance, and then likely taxes too, right? That's usually what we got to pay as tenants in the commercial world, is the taxes on our space. Another thing is, you asked about a book. Yep, this one, Hormozi, Gym Launch Secrets. This is a book, I think, written in 2019, and I just bought it. And today is July 18th, 2025. So I read this book just maybe a month ago, and this is written in 2019. And there's a lot of the little secrets in here that I think are very relevant to Jiu-Jitsu academies. So I would pick this book up. Alex, make sure you give me some royalties on this book, all right? So I actually bought 2 on accident, but you can see this one that I've read is all marked up. So a lot of tips in here, but talks about pricing psychology in here as well. So check that out. Hey guys, so that wraps up today for all the questions. I really do love answering these. It makes me happy to see you guys are watching, because again, this channel was designed just to have fun with and create content that people want to see and that I like at the end of the day. And I wish that people had told me before. So make sure you like, subscribe, but also make sure you comment and ask me questions. The more you guys get involved into the comments and ask questions on my videos, I'm happy to do these every week. This is more engaging for me, and it makes it easier to come up with what to even talk about, because it's about what you guys want to hear. So again, thanks so much. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you next week.